2024 meeting of the Board of Fair Commissioners for the Nashville Fairgrounds. As information for our audience, if you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Metropolitan Board of Fair Commissioners today, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of entry of the board's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact your own independent legal counsel. My name is Jasper Hendricks, Chair of the Fair Board, and I'll call this meeting to order. First order of business is I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
So moved. Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Was there any discussion?
Nope.
All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And aye. So the minutes are approved. Next, we will have a public comment period. We have one person who has signed up for public comment period, and that is Shane Smiley. Yes, Mr. Smiley, you have 2 minutes.
Thanks, sir. Good afternoon. The Fairgrounds has been an enterprise fund since Metro started government. It was very successful as an enterprise fund. It generated the revenue to not only take care of its own operations, but to put a large account aside. When it came through to do ADA compliance, when it came through to do sprinkler systems, the Fairgrounds was the only one that had the money in their coffers to do so. Metro government took care of the other two enterprise funds. And we continue to be the only department for decades that operated in the black, did not require a subsidy from Metro. That all changed beginning in 2016, and especially in 2017, when Metro as a whole, going from the administration to the Sports Authority to Planning Department to the Fair Board that was in place at that time, made the decisions that they made to bring in the soccer stadium and the mixed-use development. As soon as they agreed to take $10 a year for the soccer stadium, which is 1/10 of a minimum that somebody pays for one flea market booth, they failed to utilize the accounting practices and the methodology to be an enterprise fund. I believe we will never see a time again where the facility will not only be able to operate on its own without subsidy, but also be able to put money away in the bank like we've done for years. And I applaud any efforts to do so. But I believe when the people of Davidson County voted in 2011 to mandate the fair, the flea, the expo, and the speedway, that they also mandated that this facility be accepting on price to be this is something that we can utilize. This is something that we use to generate new business. This was the hub of new business growth in the region for decades. And if we're looking at pricing people out and having to continue to increase parking fees, which drives people away, booth fees and things of that nature, it just drives more business and more ability for these small businesses to grow and thrive. It harms all of them and it harms the ability to do so. So I would hope that in time, and with the help of this board and this council, that we take a hard look at the Fairgrounds no longer being an enterprise fund, because the ability to operate as an enterprise fund was thrown away in 2017. We need to be a department that is fully funded. The people of Davidson County have mandated that these uses take place, and therefore we should be funded by the people of Davidson County and not reliant on continuing to raise the rates on the people that utilize this facility for those charter mandated uses. I appreciate your time and your listening and your open ears. Thank you so much.
Was there anyone that did not get a chance to sign up? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our next order of business, which is the financial update.
Hello, everyone. The financial information presented today is preliminary, and our revenues and expenses for January 2024 may not have hit the ledgers as of February 5th, 2024, when this report was created. The preliminary actuals for January 2024 are as follows. We have collected roughly $2.3 million in revenue. We have expensed around $2.5 million, resulting in a net loss of $211,672. Depreciation expense is roughly $628,000. So the total net loss is $839,700. Below you will find an itemized list of our revenues and expenses. The top three revenue sources are flea market, corporate sales events, and the divisional fair. Flea market revenue is roughly $623,880, which represents 27% of our total revenues collected. Corporate sales events is around $703,228, which represents 30%. Divisional fair is $678,654, which is 29% of our total revenue collected. Our top three expenses are payroll, utilities, and purchase services. Payroll expenses, $998,700, which is 40% of our total expenses. Utilities expenses, $242,000, which is 10%. Purchase services expense is $575,000, which is 23%. For the month of February, our revenue projections is approximately $193,800, and our projected expense is about $230,500, which is a net loss of $36,700. On the Asian report, we have approximately $25,700 in outstanding invoices. All of the promoters have been contacted and invoiced. Overall, we are expected to remain within budget for this fiscal year. Do we have any questions regarding this section?
Yes, Commissioner Hartley.
Thank you, Satrice. As always, great report. Just a reminder to myself, so our other financing sources, the $1.4 million subsidy from the city, do you have that year over year? Do we feel like it's smooth enough yet after COVID that we can look year over year and see the trend line of where we're going on that?
Well, I can tell you year after year it's gone down. I can give you a report telling you the percentages. I don't have that currently right now, but I can tell you that it's definitely going down.
Well, and I don't want to hold you to a specific number. I love the report of the numbers after the meeting, but if you had to put like order of magnitude, like, do you think we're going down like a 10% clip or like a 50% clip? Like, where do you, if you had to just kind of eyeball it, what would you say?
I would say about a 35%.
Okay, so we're maybe more like, we were like about at 2 last year. Now we're like at 1.4-ish. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. On the aging report,
Yes, sir.
what is championship events? They're coming in at almost $5,000. You said it was 12/5/2023.
Championship events. I don't have the particulars of that particular event in front of me, but I can give you that after the meeting.
Okay.
And our event manager is not here. He would be able to speak more to that.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
I have another section.
Okay.
We are in budget season right now, right? FY25 is that's what we're working on, right? And so our budget submissions for that particular fiscal year is due this month, right? And you guys are going to be considering our fee study and those recommendations. So I don't necessarily have our submission for what we're going to be submitting. However, I do want to say that we will be asking for 4% money, about $77,500 for things like a Bobcat, forklift. What else I have on here? A Bobcat, forklift, roll-off dumpster, right, and restroom cleaning machine, and that comes to about $77,500. For our capital, we will submit what we've always submitted. It's about $165 million for parking structures, speedway improvements, and just additional site improvements. So once we get our final submission, we'll be sending that to you guys. Normally, I like to give you guys a snapshot of what we're thinking of submitting, but because you guys haven't voted on the study recommendations, I don't have that.
So, will we meet again before your budget submission? Okay, so it's about, you think it's an incremental like 80K over this year's budget? Or did I hear you right on that?
80K of
You said 77,000. Is that the
that
incremental?
is for 4%. That's not operating budget. That's like capital.
Oh yeah, okay. Remind me what 4% means.
Okay.
That means it's type of a fund that's separate from your
Right.
operating expenses.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. All right, got
Yeah.
you. Where are you at on your operating expenses? Are you flat? Are you up?
We're flat. We're within budget.
Your submission for next year will be relatively flat to this year.
Yes, we'll
Okay.
just have a little increase from maybe low cap possibly or insurance and any kind of COLA, but we are not asking as of now. We don't have any investment requests
Okay.
as of now.
Okay. Do you have any idea what? And I know it's preliminary because we have to vote on the fee study, and I will not mess up the order of the meeting by going to it now. But and I'm going to go ahead and ask the question. But with the budget submission, like, where do you think your 1.4 million is going here? Is it going? Are you going to continue to trend down? Like, do you have a number you're plugging in for your budget subsidy for next year?
Right now, we are probably about $1 million looking at a subsidy, but that could go down depending on F&B because we don't have any revenue right now estimated for that because we don't have a F&B contractor.
Okay, I got you. Are you using the fee study, the increased fees in the numbers that drive to that $1 million
Yes, sir.
subsidy? Okay, cool. Thank you. No, I don't have any problem with that. I'm just getting my head around it.
Can you explain the connection between the fee study and the capital and 4% calculation?
So the 4% is just an ask that we're asking for, and we, as far as our operating budget, we didn't factor that piece in, like as far as self-funding.
Yeah.
I guess we could, but we're trying to keep the ask as low as possible.
This is because of the nature of 4%, that it's not all operating, it's not all capital, it's the hybrid, right? And
Right.
that's probably a good way of explaining
Okay.
that part. It's for non-metro.
But is it still money we have to? I mean, it still comes out of our P&L, or is it separate?
It's separate.
Okay, thank you.
But
Separate.
4% can be used for some. It's a little bit more. It's a hybrid use case versus capital is strict capital, operating strict operating. That just to clarify why it matters that we have the fee study, because it drives that.
Yeah. Any other questions?
All right, thank you, Catrice. Is there anything that you would like for us? I mean, is there anything that you need from us to do other than the fee study, other than, that vote in order to prepare for the budget?
No?
Okay.
I mean, I'm just thinking, just to talk for just a second. I mean, if the operating expenses are flat and the 4% doesn't come out of our P&L, I'm happy to ask somebody else for money. Certainly, that's great. And then we're going to look at the revenue side. So, yeah. Sorry, I don't know. I just felt like needing to narrate that. Sorry, you had already said that, Jasper.
Now, I will say this. We ask for 4% every year. It doesn't mean we're going to get it, but we like to ask.
And chances that we get it are
Very low.
slim.
But I like to let you know what we're asking for.
Yeah. Everyone asks, only some get.
It's a wish list.
Okay, well, we're going to move on to our next order of business, which is events updates from our campus partners. As we start with Nashville Soccer.
Afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Not much has actually changed since I last spoke, so I was just going to highlight some of the events we have this month. Tomorrow is our preseason match, the first one at our stadium, so it's open to season ticket members. That's at 2 o'clock. And then on the 17th, we're doing a jersey reveal at the stadium, which is open to the public. Then our first match of the season is February 25th at 4 o'clock, and our next match will be February 28th at 8:15. So that's kind of what we've got going on. Eager to provide more updates once we get into our season, but right now it's kind of steady, a little bit slow. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Nope. Thank you.
I have one question. I'm sorry.
Skirt.
You almost
Testing
fell
my
over.
flexibility.
Well done.
Thank you. It's ice skating.
You're ramping up into your season. Are there any challenges you guys see? Anything we, as the sort of landlord of the facility, like anything you want to bring to our attention that's important as we move into the season for soccer?
I think the parking garage coming online at the end of March will be a really interesting thing for us to see and how that helps with the parking. We always will have parking, I wouldn't say issues, just challenges. So that should help a lot and mitigate. Scheduling, we're really going to start focusing on 2025 sooner than we did last year because we ran into so many challenges with dates. So it's just, it's a big campus now. So we all have those challenges of trying to make everything work together. But we're going to start that, I think, earlier. We learned that lesson last year. But other than that, I think every year we go forward, it actually gets easier. I don't know, Laura, if you feel otherwise, but on our end, it seems to get smoother because we've just been operating. No more? Thanks.
All right, thank you. And then now, put myself a note. Ed and David. Is it David? Okay.
Dirk gets promoted and he doesn't come to meetings anymore. Shout out to Dirk for getting promoted. Good job.
Well, good afternoon. Hopefully you all have the documents in front of you for the budget dashboards regarding the projects I'll be covering. Going to highlight and start with I guess my disclaimer that I typically do, that the numbers you'll be seeing in front of you are roughly 45 to 60 days in arrears. And I'll also be highlighting as I go through these that there's only been some movement since the last report, but I will call those to your attention. First, I'll start with fairgrounds and improvement projects. So again, we've been roughly at 99% here for a while. We're working to get a lot of things done from, I guess, the financial and administrative side related to purchase orders, cleaning a lot of those things up. But since the last time this report came before you, there's only been about $15,000 of spend hitting this budget. So a little bit of movement, but not a lot. And currently, again, still in a very good position with the amount of contingency that's there. I think one thing to highlight is that, the month of January was a little bit slow. We squeezed in right before we had our little winter apocalypse here. And so we've been engaging our vendors and other consultants, but some of them are also playing catch up. So I would say this is maybe atypical in terms of the amount of invoices and movement that we would get in a typical month, except the holidays. And so I think when we come back in front of you all in March, you'll see kind of a more typical amount of movement between these with these line items. Fair Park, Again, a little bit of an echo here. There has been some invoicing here, but the largest invoice, which is the invoice for Bell, the construction manager, had not yet been submitted at the time of reviewing the financials. So again, only 1% of movement there, but typically the construction managers billing and invoicing will swing and move this, but that's not been submitted yet. So not really a lot of movement there. And then going to infrastructure, I won't steal any of David's thunder on activities and scope that's happening there, but as of the last time I was in front of you, this document has not moved at all. So those figures are exactly the same. But David will be able to highlight some of the activity and actual movement because again, it's not stagnant out there. Any questions related to the financials? All right.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. So, as you can see, we're making a lot of progress out here at Fair Park. We've got the final wear surfaces, all the site amenities are in, the landscape irrigation is complete. We do have some fencing, that's some back order items on some gates and stuff that are going in right now. And we have a punch walk, which is where we're going to go through and just kind of check everything out, make sure everything was done per the plans and specs. That's scheduled for next week. So that project will be coming to a close soon, and we'll hopefully get a substantial completion certificate, and then everybody can go out there and really enjoy it. So that's coming up. We do have one back order item, which is the trailhead structure. That's scheduled to show up right about the end of this month, the first week in March, and then we'll get that in, and that'll pretty much complete everything. Then on infrastructure part 2, so you know there's 3 parts, 3 components to that. We've got the Windgrove intersection that we're currently working on right now. That's in design and engineering, and that is ongoing. We're doing a lot of coordination with NDOT and WEGO. We're also going to be doing some coordination with TDOT. So that's going to be coming up. So right now it's just a lot of coordination to get it set up to go into permitting. That all is going well. The second component would be Speedway Alley, which is right up here between the stadium and mixed use, or mixed use in the Speedway, I should say. Right, you can see they've got all the demolition complete in that area. They've got the underground utilities in. They've got most all of the roadway to a rough grade, basically in its rough position. Up at the top, you'll notice they're starting to put in some of the final grades, so you can see some of that coming along. We're going to have the use of that Speedway Alley ready for the first race of this year. There'll be some limited use to that. We won't have all the parts and pieces, won't be in place at that time. Some of that will be following in the next month. And then the completion date for Fair Plaza, that's going to be coinciding with the opening of the mixed-use building, which will be in 24, be this year. I think that's like right around June, July, somewhere in that range right there. So that's coming along nice. And then we have the Speedway Alley continuation road. So as soon as you leave Speedway Alley, you're going to be heading on out to Craighead, and we're working on that right now. Design and engineering's ongoing along with Windgrove. Both of those are running tandem, although they're separate. They're running tandem together. We're hoping to have the construction documents due here in March. Construction documents will be to the point where we could actually take it to permit, go out to bid, get the construction underway. So we're hoping all that comes together here real soon. We're shooting for the first part in March. And then at the same time, we're doing preliminary approvals with all the agencies here in town. We're just giving them a look at it up front to just say, hey, do we have all our I's dotted, T's crossed? And as the drawings come to completion, that's when we'll pull the whole packages together and send it right in for permitting. And so all that's going well, and we don't have any major issues that I'm aware of. Does anybody have any questions?
What we're going to try to do is pull together, I think by March we'll be able to show everyone all of the plans of where we are in design so you can get a feel for what all these projects look like. It's been a while since we showed them to you, and this will give you a good idea.
And I just had one question, though, about the timing of construction and the upcoming soccer season. Do you anticipate any, any interference or any kind of problems with that?
Nothing everything's being anticipated. Where there could potentially be a problem, that's all being anticipated and it's being worked out now. But we don't see any problems. And I don't think Nashville Soccer, we've been coordinating smoothly. So it's just a matter of if we do see an issue, we just bring it up to the team, we talk about it, and we find a solution, and then we just carry on with that.
Cool. Thank you. Yes.
Laura, are you going on the punch list? The substantial completion? Or somebody from the fairgrounds is going? Okay, good. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, and I'll just mention that once we start work on the roadway extension and the bridge work from the Speedway down to Craighead, we're going to build the road while keeping the existing road whole and usable, so that in the event we do start construction during race season or whatever, we'll still be able to get haulers in while we're building the new road and the new bridge.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Yep. So next we will, we're going to have our executive director's report, but she would also be making a couple of other announcements from some of our campus partners who are not here today.
Yes, so I can get it. I can give you a brief update from Dirk. He did apologize that he was unable to come, but I do have he did submit something in writing. The building exterior is mostly complete with final finishings like painting of the north facade is the last area remaining. Elevators are functional. Apartment residence finishes are now being installed on floors 3 and 4. They're getting towards punch lists themselves on floor 6. They are on track to start resident move-ins in July, depending on receipt of occupancy certificates. Garage is substantially complete, and as Lindsay said, we are anticipating that to be ready by the end of March. And then the alley work is underway. As you know, Metro's got a participation agreement with Market Street to do Fair Plaza and the Speedway alley portion. And the Fair Plaza work is anticipated to begin in March.
One quick, Laura, or maybe our two prior colleagues that spoke. So if we use the garage during soccer games, like what's the entry direction? Like which road do they go down? Is it the stadium side road?
I'll leave that to Lindsay and her discussions if she knows. I mean, my understanding is that ingress and egress may be different, but they'll be utilizing the roadway up from Craighead. All right, then I got 3 introductions to make. First off, I told him I wouldn't put him on the spot and make him speak, but Jason's our new general manager for the Speedway this year. So I just met him today, so looking forward to working with you, Jason, of course. Also, we've got 2 new employees that are here. We have, Citrus has staff, and I'm sure she is like thrilled. Can you see her face? Very happy. Miss Kenya Woodard, Kenya is our accountant. And then we also have Miss Judy Karen, and Judy is our buyer and accounts payable specialist. So Miss Judy is replacing Sherry Cronkite, who retired at the end of the year. So welcome to both of you. All right, a couple other things from my report. Did want to mention, and I sent this to you guys on email, but I wanted to mention it publicly that the flea market was voted again the best flea market in Tennessee from Tennessee Magazine. We will be celebrating the flea market's 55th anniversary in May. So that's kind of a big deal. To recognize the milestone, we're actually going to be open for 4 days in that weekend. Because of Memorial Day, we're going to open on Monday. So the vendors are thrilled. They'll get an extra day of sales. Do want to update you on the food and beverage RFP. It's supposed to be published today. One of the questions that y'all asked at the last meeting was, what can we do to help kind of promote that opportunity? In talking with the purchasing agent, what we can do is put the link directly to the RFP on our website. That is allowed, as well as social media, but we have to be really careful that all inquiries, all communications go properly to the purchasing office, and that we don't try to field any of those. So it's got to be a direct link to the solicitation itself. So we'll make sure to do all of that as, put that out as many avenues as we can. So you'll be able to find that on our website as well.
How long will it be posted?
It should be out for 3 weeks. I also, I don't know if you noticed at the Oval out here, they've started the site work for the public art. It's going to take about till mid-April for the full installation of the piece. So we'll be looking at about mid-April for a dedication. So I'll make sure everyone receives an invitation for that. It's going to be a very, very cool piece. And that's all I have.
So I guess we can go into old business. So, and that is a consideration of the fee study recommendations.
Do you have a copy?
Oh, Miss Christie, even asked you.
Oh, it's all good. I think I can. I mean, I'm just going to look at it, some background information.
Yeah, so as a reminder of the recommendations, was 8% for our base venue rental rates, phased in over 2 years, so 4% this year, FY25, 4% FY26. Also included a recommendation for 50% base rate for move-in, move-out days. It also included recommendations for 5% for ancillary rentals, like tables and chairs, pipe and drape, and then also looking at possible event service fees that we have been typically absorbing, that we would now look to transition to the event themselves. And I'll give you some examples of what those could be. For very large scale events, obviously we generate a lot of garbage that is directly attributable to the event. So, pulling a 30-yard dumpster based on Metro contracted rates. Janitorial services that would be a pass-through, as well as things like high-capacity Wi-Fi booths for events that have such an intense connection need and processing need. That may be one of those services that is essentially we order and it's a pass-through. So those are the types of fees that we'll be looking at implementing as well.
So do you have a list of what the charges currently are and what the recommendation is from staff?
I have that in my files. Are you looking at like total, like dollar amounts?
So if we're going to say what 4%, I mean, if we're going to vote on a 4% increase, like what is it currently, and what are you suggesting that we move it into? And then also the list of all the other ancillary charges. So like whatever else you're gonna charged? Do we need to break it down
I
that
can,
far in order to approve it? Or do we just say, oh, we just saying we approve a 4% increase? Because I think what it is that each building here has a different price. But I don't know if every board member knows what that specific price is for each particular facility. And so if we're going to vote on a 4% increase, like, so is it 4,000? It's like what, 4,000 or something for for one?
yes, I can give you those prices. So right now, Expo 1 is $5,090. A 4% increase would bring that to $5,294. So it's a $200 increase. Expo 2 is $2,757.30. A 4% increase then would be $2,867. So it's $110 increase. Expo 3 is $3,939.60. It would go up to $4,097. So again, about $100 increase. So it's all in and around that. When you talk about FF&E or ancillary, our tables and chairs, for example, tables are $10. So it would go up to $10. It would be at a 50-cent increase. Pipe and drape, chairs are $2, so it would add 10 cents to chair rentals. These are our common, this is not an exhausted list, but I did, pull the most common rented items. Pipe and drape we do by linear feet, so if it's $3 a linear foot, you're looking at a 15-cent increase per linear foot. Electrical hookups, again, it would go up 75 cents, $2, so the 5% is pretty minimal of those fees. Things like waste removal, I look at the current contracted Metro rates for that, not looking to upcharge or anything. We would actually do, what it costs us is what it would cost our events. So an example of that would be about $480 for a roll-off to be emptied, a 30-yard roll-off. And then depending on the contract that we use for janitorial, it ranges somewhere in between, say, $22 and $25 an hour for janitorial staff, if that gives you an idea of costs.
And those,
has there been any estimates as to like what, if we increases, like what is the actual budget about, like how much are we looking to have in revenue once if this recommendation has been approved or is approved?
Yeah, I believe, do you have those from Ryan, Satrice? We just ran those numbers for move in, move out, which is probably one of the more significant fees. We talked about this last month. It was about $90,000 for the whole year amongst all our clients, and that would be the 25% because that also was recommended of being phased in.
According to our events manager, he estimated, like for Expo 1, we budgeted this year $330,100 in revenue. He estimates with this 4% increase for FY25 that we could bring in roughly $460,600 with what is currently on the books.
Okay.
Like placeholders and things like that.
So those contracts, but and those contracts have not been signed.
Correct. Not all of them. Right.
So will we be able to charge those people the new fee?
Yes, anybody who's not under contract or anybody that we've already quoted pricing to. That wouldn't be very fair.
Right.
Okay.
I might suggest. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to comment that a lot of those costs that you were listing right now, some of those were driven by the size of the event, right? So the garbage, $400, that's not everyone that does an event would necessarily incur that cost. It would be just at a certain size, right? So we're eating some costs if it's marginal. When it goes beyond a certain threshold, then we pass it through.
That's correct.
So So I think next time we should have the documents of what we're going to recommend in front of us. I mean, I think that's a good move. For purposes of, I don't know what we're doing, consideration of this, do we need to do like a motion to approve? I'm not going there yet. I just want to get something concrete to like work around. In the deck that we saw, there's 3 recommendations. So I don't want to have to read all this out, but if I have to, I will. But we can make that the motion to then discuss the specifics of it. Jasper, would that be helpful, you think? So I'll move I'll move that we're directing the fairgrounds staff to take steps to implement the recommendations of the fee study, including the following: 1, an 8% increase in published rental rates at the Expo Center; 2, an increase in the fee for move-in and move-out days, 50% of the daily rate; and 3, that we're directing the fairground staff to set a goal for the additional event services revenues as a percentage of rent revenue. So we're essentially saying that we want you to create an amount of money for ancillary services. I think that's the motion. Is that good? Does that work for y'all?
The only thing I would add, if it's okay, is that the top 2, the 8% and the fee for move-in, the recommendation was a phased-in approach. So I think that's really important to say.
Could I just amend that motion? So we'll make it, that's the motion, that we're directing the fairground staff to achieve those goals through the recommendations of the fee study as a whole, which includes a phased move-in and also includes some accounting principles that are different, et cetera, et cetera. So we're essentially moving to accept the fee study as a whole. That's probably the easier way to move forward. And then we can talk about the parts we don't like and take those out. So I'll amend my motion to be accept the fee study as a whole, as presented last month, and then we can, for discussion.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Discussion.
I'll start since I made the motion. I like the fee study. I think it's moving us in the right direction. I think it's great to rely on experts. I do think we all had significant concerns last month about potentially pricing out some of our users of the facility. We've heard some similar comments tonight from public, and I think that's important. I think one thing that either Commissioner Hendricks or Diego mentioned last month was creating sort of a nonprofit schedule or alternative rates for nonprofits in Davidson County. I would support the fee studies as recommended, as long as we can include that as a modification to the fee study.
Yeah, to stay on that topic, I think moving to approve the fee study and then having the ability to actually discount when appropriate instead of just having an inherent discount with everybody. That's just rephrasing a little bit what you were saying, right? And having a specific price for, or at least in my view, should be community organizations, nonprofits, and a specific program for small businesses that very much like public comment was mentioning. We want to be a place that is helping small businesses, local businesses grow. Great. If not that it was necessarily phrased like this when it was chartered to the mandate to do all this stuff. But one of the things that I would like for us to open discussion here is also what's the amount or the percentage of businesses that come grow in the fairgrounds or that take advantage of subsidy in whichever fashion it ends up being are Davidson County residents, because it's Davidson County residents paying for the subsidy for the businesses that come grow here, right? So if we're incubating, if we're helping businesses grow, I would definitely like for us to make sure that we're concentrating those efforts in Davidson County residents who are the ones paying for that bill. So.
Yes, Commissioner Owens.
So, with it being Davidson County residents, the nonprofits need to be Davidson County to get that reduced rate if we come with a nonprofit reduced rate, or would that go for nonprofits from wherever?
I think that'll be up for us to decide. But when I mentioned it, I was really thinking of only Davidson County, those who are based in Davidson County. And when I said nonprofit, like a legitimate nonprofit,
Correct,
registered with
yes,
the state,
paperwork and everything.
You're right. Yeah, you have a 501c3
Yeah.
status, or a nonprofit status, and you're registered with the state.
Could I suggest? I also think it'd be good to hear from Laura about what would be most helpful. Obviously, she has to manage day to day. So I don't want to move off that particular point too quickly, and stop me if we're going too fast, Jasper. But I do want to get Laura's opinion on the fee study and how she sees it.
I'm also very grateful that we had the ability to contract with Catherine. And I do have Catherine standing by on mute, just in case. So hi, Catherine.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Yeah, so she is here in case you have any technical questions or methodology questions. So I think that'll be important. We reached out. I think the important thing about this is that we reached out and made sure that our current client list and our client base was engaged as part of the process. To start answering your question, I probably talked to 6 to 8 clients after sending them out the presentation and the report to see what their thoughts were. Giving you a summary of their feedback. Of course, some of our larger events were a bit nervous about, especially the move-in, move-out days, because those large-scale events do have a tendency to take a lot of time. But I will say just recently we had a full venue event, and due to the storm, they were unable to do their traditional 3-day load-in, but did get it done in 1 day. So I do think that not everyone will see such a dramatic increase in move-in, move-out if we can work with them to be more efficient in their move-in and move-out, and it would certainly help reduce a little bit of pressure for us from an operational standpoint because of turnover from one event to another. Our venue is worth it. We are in a hot market. We offer flexible space. We're still extremely affordable for compared to the other event venues in Nashville. I would also like to do a nonprofit rate. I'm very supportive of it. Right now, I'm a little nervous about it just because we do have a budget gap, and we've had discussions about subsidizing use of this building and in the events that we do here. And I want to get to that place where we can confidently offer a percentage reduction to those types of business, because we've talked about also being an incubator for new business, for small business. We are an economic development engine for Nashville, like a lot of businesses are. So what we do here is really, really important for small business, and so I want to be able to support that in the context of we also, like it or not, we are still an enterprise fund, and we are expected to generate a certain amount of revenue. So it's just balancing that right now. I think we can get there, but is now appropriate, knowing that we have a gap that we have to fill.
So one comment on that is that I think with having a nonprofit rate, you can actually maybe increase revenue, because that it could help you fill in slots that currently are not booked. And so that's a company, an organization that can now, that can possibly slide in and give you your extra $3,000 or $5,000 that you're not accounting for because it's open. But if they can receive a 10% discount or something like that, it may make it a little bit more affordable, a little bit more enticing. So I would like to think about it from that standpoint. You can use it to actually increase revenue. And then the other thing, my question is, though, in coming up with the $2 a chair, $10 a table, does that include staff time? Does that include the manual labor that it takes to actually put the chair down? Like, are you accounting for that as well when you're and also doing an extension cord? I mean, because I'm not comparing it at all, but I know if you go to a hotel and and a person asks for a table to go outside of the room to set up, it's going to cost you $100. Yeah, for the table, because you got to pay the person to actually put the table down. So when you were coming up with the $2 for a chair, does that include the price the cost of what it takes for that staff person to actually do the work?
It has, yes, up to this point included setup. However, there are some instances where if we don't have the equipment that is needed or we run out and somebody drops it off, that will be a fee for us. We would charge for that, setting up someone else's items, yes. And I'll add about the nonprofit too, that there are Metro departments that do offer discounts to Davidson County, so we would certainly not be unique if we wanted to limit any discount to Davidson County residents.
Thank you. I just had a question, maybe for legal, which is my favorite group. I'm giving you time to prepare. How much flexibility do we have? And how much discretion can we give to Laura? Like, for example, could we say, we're approving this fee study, but she has discretion in individual circumstances can you create discretion in pricing? That may be another way to do sort of a discount rate is what I'm getting at.
I think that would be, maybe not strictly illegal, just kind of problematic in the sense that Laura would have to have very kind of strict and consistent criteria to go by in deciding when to and when not to apply.
So the answer is why? So probably because of procurement rules or because of equity reasons, or what's sort of the reasoning behind that?
Just in terms of treating everybody fairly and not treating similarly classed groups of people differently.
Can I try to rephrase the question a little bit? Could we vote to approve the fee recommendations, and then at a later date provide Laura with a criteria that the board is defining for what's that discount, who does it apply to, what are the requirements, qualifications, etc. So we can, does that cover at least some of what you?
Well, I wouldn't rely on us. I'd probably rather rely on. I guess no, it doesn't, because to me, not to push back too much, but market negotiation should certainly be part of this. We're running this on a market basis, so I think it absolutely makes sense for her. And also because if we don't allow any discretion, we could drop this and it might be completely rejected, and we could have a really big problem with our budget. We might make a big increase, we might get no business, and we need to be able to scale back. So I'm just saying it might behoove us to be wise and give her more discretion in how she implements the fees.
Well, now I have a question based on this, because I think currently right now the parking fees are at her discretion. So, we made a motion to say that, we gave her the ability to charge up to $20, right? Up to $20. And so how is that different than what he's asking?
Is it because we're providing guardrails to the discretion? Is it like a range?
So Erica is pointing out that in the bylaws there is a provision that the Fair Board authorizes the executive director on its behalf to negotiate and enter into agreements for terms less than a year, or as delegated by the chairperson pursuant to the Fair Board's authority under the Metro Charter and Code. If the executive director determines an agreement will have a significant impact to the community, the chair shall be notified prior to execution. So she does already have some discretion in terms of negotiation. I'm just saying, I just am worried I see some potentially fuzzy boundaries about figuring out like who fits into these categories to benefit from this discount. I think we might need to take a little bit more of a legal look at that as well.
Thank you for your opinion. That sounded really aggressive. I didn't mean it that way. Thank you for your opinion, honestly.
Thank you.
I did not
said
take
thank
it
you.
aggressively.
Yeah. So back to what I was trying to rephrase is we could still vote and then we would define, and probably there's, like Laura mentioned, there's some benchmarks already within Metro because there are departments that do have a nonprofit discount quote, something like that, that we could basically benchmark that, and it would have to be aligned with what Metro does and what makes sense to the market. And
I believe that's correct. Like we also represent Traffic and Parking Commission, and I believe that they do some different rates for nonprofits.
I think municipal auditorium may have also a discount rate for
Yeah, they may
for
as well.
nonprofit. So if we could municipal auditorium.
Municipal auditorium, well, I won't give advice relevant to municipal auditorium because this is not their board, this is yours.
Right, but I mean, just at least as a point of reference, something already is there and it's Metro, and I know it's although it may not be identical, it's similar enough to be a reference.
Yeah, sure. So I'm not saying it can't be done. It absolutely can be done. It just has to be done carefully.
As it should.
This is for Catherine. This is Commissioner Owens. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
I know you have recommended a 2-year phased approach with the entities that you were comparing us to. The prices that they currently have, would that be their same prices in 2 years, or do you know?
So I'm sorry, I didn't.
For your study,
Yeah.
the prices you currently are comparing to are what they have on the books today, correct? Or
Yes, correct.
so in
correct.
2 years you wouldn't know what they would have, right?
Correct. Yes.
So
I'm
even-
not privy to
So
what
even
they're
with this
planning and-
increase, we could end up still being.
We're going to the market today.
Yeah, so the market in 2 years could be completely different, so we could still be way behind the 8-ball in prices, correct? Theoretically.
I mean, everything's compared to 2023 levels, and then we also applied inflation
Okay.
after that. So, it should be keeping up with inflation at the minimum, because the recommendation, everything's based on 2023, which is the comparison with all the comparable and peer venues that we did. So, it should be, unless they're planning some sort of increase that we don't know about, but assuming everyone is just, putting in the inflation numbers, it should still be comparable.
Okay, thank you.
Can I? This is a little bit of a pivot, but when Laura was talking, she mentioned key keywords, in my opinion, how we're looking at all of this, and this is a little bit moving from nonprofits a little bit to the small business arena, right? When you say we are an economic development engine for the region, that's great. The keywords are economic development. I think that whatever program that we're trying to come up with, or however we're trying to assist the small business community, as a small business owner myself, that sounds great. Now, I think that we need to do that with the economic development Metro Economic Development Department office, with mayor's office, et cetera, right? I think that we need to do it in coordination, because we are more a landlord. We are more of a fair, all those things. We are not an economic development department, right? We're not staffed for economic development. We definitely don't have the budget for doing economic development, right? The kind of like loosely defined subsidy. I think that we need to be very diligent in coordinating with the economic development department, saying, like, if you want us as Fairgrounds to be a good partner, continue to be a good partner with economic development, we need structure, we need commitment from them to help us with that subsidy, right? Because I don't think that we necessarily have a number, not looking for a number right now, but how much of the gap that we're trying to close comes from, quote unquote, subsidizing and helping businesses, right? I know that it's a little bit of a squishy question. It's just hard to answer with a specific number right now, but we should know that much better than we do today, right? And if we have to make up for $1 million making up numbers, and 700,000 come from helping small businesses, closing the gap, helping them grow and whatnot, then that's a $700,000 program that we should be doing with economic development. And if, again, I said this the last meeting, if the administration is not interested in that, if the council is not interested in that, then that's also our marching order. So, or we should be able to see what the city is wanting to do and not, right? And they represent, after all, the taxpayer and the money that we're deciding upon. It's through them. So I think that we need to, as part of the fee study, that's one piece, and anything that we want to leave there to support, because maybe that's another part of the discount that could come. It's an economic development discount, right? And all right, we're going to take a loss of $200,000 a year, but who's going to make up for it? The Economic Development Office. How? Through a program, and they're going to give us those $200,000, et cetera, right? So like we need to be balancing our budget and define the gap in the best way possible. And I think that we need to be working very close with economic development per se, if we're going to be trying to be an economic development arm for Metro.
Yeah.
I think that's spot on, Diego. Like, core competency, like what's your core competency? Like, I think you really just crystallized that very well, and it really speaks to keeping this as clean as possible. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think I'm ready to go with this. And I would be in favor of us passing this through in light of what we just read in the bylaws, that Laura already has discretion on pricing. And the only other add I would suggest is that we look at, we direct Laura to give us a summary report in 6 months of how this went, so that and y'all can fiddle with the time periods, but like, let's get a report in 6 months and see where we are and see if we want to pivot because we've made an error. So I'm in favor of passing this through.
But the motion on the table is just to receive the report. The motion on the table is just to receive the report.
I think it was to accept it.
To accept the report. Any other?
We have an events manager on staff, though, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I would not be in favor of the last part you said about checking back, and change it back if we see we may be falling off face, because we pay the event manager to get us events. So make it happen.
Yes, sir. We shall.
Any other questions, comments? All right, somebody call a question.
So we're now voting on the original motion, which is just to accept the fee study as a whole?
Yes.
Okay.
So the motion on the table is to accept the fee study. So is all in favor? We're going to start on this side.
Aye.
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 And aye.
Catherine, thank you so much for all your work on this. We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So you're done with me?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All done.
All right. I'm all if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So next on the agenda is new business, and that's consideration of legislation authorizing the acceptance of sponsorships with a total net value not to exceed $25,000. Background on this is that currently we are, as a Metro entity, not allowed to solicit or receive any sponsorships over the amount of $7,000. $7,000.
$500.
Oh, $7,500. But in order to get corporate sponsorships for the fair and some of the other activities that we have, we have directed Metro Legal to come up with this legislation that needs to go before Metro Council so that they can approve our entity in soliciting contributions of $25,000. and this is a net, so this is not including, this doesn't include anything, any costs associated with getting the sponsorship. So do we have a motion to recommend this legislation going before council?
I make a motion that we move this forward.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Yes.
I just wanted to let you know that I had a discussion with Metro's purchasing agent, and we're looking at procurement code to determine if there are any provisions that would limit how we go about soliciting sponsorships. I'll give you an example. There are certain individuals that, fundraising and identifying sponsorship opportunities is their job, and sometimes they are paid by a commission or a percentage, a contingency commission based on what they've earned. We are working with procurement and their legal counsel to determine if there are any limitations in the code that would prevent us from doing that. That is just one method that we could employ. We don't know exactly how we're going to go about doing it, but once that is determined, we'll develop our packages and then our strategy on how we're going to go about reaching out and networking and getting some connections.
So what you're saying is finder's fee? Like it's basically
Kinda, yeah. So, if somebody secures $10,000 for us and they, their contingent fee would be 10%, then they just give us 9%,
However, since we are board members, I'm pretty sure we can find 10,000, 25,000 here and there. So we can,
for free.
for free.
For free.
For free.
For the record, we will not take a finder's fee.
Right.
I did want to say to that comment, though, just, Diego, and I'm not saying this was in your head, but just to say that's a very common structure. I mean, that's a very common structure in this marketplace. So I retain people like that.
And $9,000 that we're not coming in are worth $1,000 every day of the week. So,
Any other discussion? No?
Actually,
Last one.
You go ahead, Ann.
All right. What's our 2023 sponsorship? What did that look like?
Most of it was with the fair, but we are looking to expand beyond the fair, of course. A really good opportunity, of course, is the flea market, especially as we hit our 55th birthday. So we have a lot of opportunities, and I think we're going to look, and, it's always a good idea to, work with Jason at the Speedway to see if we can, co-pro anything. But we're going to be looking at opportunities for all of our business units.
See, and this doesn't stop us from getting, additional sponsors. From getting a $100,000 sponsor. It's just with that we have to get
approval for 25.
council.
I see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
One additional request. So this has to go through Metro Council, and it'll take a period of time. So it says, adopting rules and regulations. So, Laura, I think, I don't want to speak for the whole board, but I would expect that we're going to be looking for you to come with your strategy and plan in the next couple of months of how you're going to execute on this, because this is money that is very important to make the P&L work.
Yeah, and right now we don't have. What's the line item for? Have we anticipated the sponsorship?
For fair, we've collected $10,000 in sponsorship, and then we get a $10,000 sponsorship from Pepsi. So total $20,000.
So, and it's going to help, because I know before we've had companies that wanted to do something, but they couldn't because we didn't have enough time to take it through council. So
I'm sure all of our campus partners are so excited to assist us in this area.
beat me to that one. Second on the pressure.
Any other discussion? All right, call for question. So the motion on the table is to recommend this legislation to Metro Council. All in favor? We'll start on this side.
Aye.
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 And aye. So, unanimous decision. Thank you, Metro Legal, for all of your work in this. So thank you. I know it took a while, but thank you very much. We appreciate it. Any other business?
I've got one.
Yes.
Not for today, but I know this takes a long time. And so, Metro Legal, you did such a good job. I think there's another job I would like to suggest. So, we've talked in the past about how we've got an offset of tax revenue coming to us, but it has to be used for capital expenses, or at least that's our current understanding. So, two things I would like. One, I would like to confirm that is the accurate understanding of the use of that money and that it's not available for operating expenses or any other type of use. And then two, if it is in fact restricted to capital expenses, I would like to hear I would like to discuss at the next meeting whether we should try to move that to potentially be used for operating expenses as well. So that can be, we can discuss that next month at the board, assuming it's okay with you, Commissioner Hendricks, and that is my request.
Yep. Because I think we will have some good discussion about that. Yeah. 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 Right.
Go for it. I guess the answer is no.
But
I will definitely look into it.
And I guess and I like to add on to that. So if it's only for capital, like what definition of capital? What is included in capital?
Yeah. In particular, could it be used for 4% type of items? Because 4% passes with the CSP, with the capital spending plan. So by definition, it should be treated as capital.
And maybe a way to say it is just like, what are our limits on this money? And then so we can plan as it starts to come online. And if we want to make a change, we can discuss that. But that's the thrust of what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Another comment also to I guess request this publicly that we reach out to economic development to start talking about formalizing programming for fairgrounds with in general to how we can actually start approaching helping small businesses in a more programmatic fashion.
Well, and then to add on to that, I'm glad you mentioned this. Can we actually start receiving regular reports as to the vendors here in the fairgrounds and what they receive, especially the ones that receive the subsidy, because that is helping small businesses. So if we're having 200 vendors here every month and they're receiving help to be here, that's something that we're doing for 200 small businesses throughout the region. And I think I've asked for it before, like, and what is that demographic breakdown? So are they Davidson County residents? Are they outside of Davidson County residents? And are we keeping data as to whether or not they're minority-owned businesses as well?
Chair, are you talking specifically for the rent relief program for the flea market? Because we do have all that data.
Yes.
Yes, we've got that ready for you anytime, and I can pull that and send it to you.
Yeah, so we can have it report here at the next meeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you in the next couple weeks as soon as we get budget done.
Yeah, because I think that will help with
100%, and they should love it, right? They would want to see it. That's how they're going to present results. The work is happening. We're just not accounting for it the right way. And we're not calling a spade, and then we need to, right? Because we just keep calling it subsidy that it's just not defined. So
right.
Everyone should be very much on board with that on that side too. That this is low-hanging fruit to just take credit for something that's already happening.
And the funding committee, we talked at length with the funding committee both years for phase 1 and phase 2 of that program. I mean, that was our justification, was supporting small businesses coming out of COVID, helping the rebound, and we do have all those percentages of where they're from. If I recall, don't hold me to it, I thought about 60% were right around our Nashville metro region. So,
right.
But I'll pull the numbers for you.
And where we are with the funding too, because it's going to run out soon.
It is. So originally we had anticipated it running through May. But we're getting a lot of new vendors, and so we're getting those online as well. So they're taking advantage of it. So we're looking at April, May. We've moved up a month, so we may run out a little sooner than we projected a year ago, but that's a good thing because that means it's being used and we won't
Right.
leave anything on the table.
And do you see why we need a program that is defined as when that runs out, we need to have exactly that, right? And I mean, again, the structure's there. Let's just make it a thing. It's a permanent thing. If that's how we're going to help, that's how we're going to help, and let's account for that.
Yep. Thank you. Any other comments before we close? Before we adjourn? Have a motion to adjourn? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All
Favor.
right. All right. Thank you. Thank you all for attending the meeting. Appreciate it.
I'll send.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.